Hello and welcome to Asian Voices. I'm your host, Kathleen Choi. On today's episode, we celebrate three special Asian women pioneers in broadcast journalism. First, we'll meet an Emmy-nominated television host, journalist, and reporter from India whose work has helped diversify the narrative in journalism. Then, we have the honor to meet with the first Asian American female news anchor at CNN. And later, we catch up with Korean American woman who dreamt of becoming a journalist at the age of 5 and now became an accomplished multimedia journalist, anchor, and reporter. Those stories and more coming up next on Asian Voices. Meet Rasha Goel, Emmy-nominated TV host, producer, journalist, and international correspondent who is leading the way in changing and diversifying our media space for Asian women. Her engaging, witty personality and endless energy has even led her to interview top Hollywood celebrities and even host the red carpet event at the Golden Globes. Let's meet Rasha and find out what drives this UCLA graduate in not only building her own legacy, but in creating a path for better representation for all Asian women in media.
Our co-host at the center of the carpet, Rasha Goel.
Hey guys, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. How do you book a role when you tell the producers and directors that you can't sing, you don't play the piano, and you might have some okay dance moves?
I'm curious to know, when you make a decision like that, are you 100% confident that you'll be able to deliver on set, or is there ever a change of mind, or you might back out? Because most people might.
A lot of young girls are going to be looking up to you after this in this new vigilante superhero that you've created.
Wait, can I just say you're crushing it?
And that's a wrap.
I would describe myself as a fun-loving, open person who loves to be around other people. I love communicating. I'm very adventurous. I'm curious. And I love hearing about people's journeys and their stories and just really exploring life. I feel like there's so much life has to offer, and I want every day to be a new adventure in some capacity. And then I think growing up South Asian, I had to find a way of being that American kid that fit into the community and was able to integrate, at the same time coming home and balancing my Indian culture and understanding my roots and, learning the language. And of course, growing up in a South Asian household where your parents, really emphasize your education and success and things like that. So it was really trying to find that balance of being Indian and American.
Each year, only a handful of short filmmakers have their dream.
I always joke around and say I was probably born with a microphone. Even from a very young age, I loved being on stage. I loved performing, whether it was acting, whether it was dancing. I used to play the viola. I ended up being one of the first South Asian American journalist correspondent for one of the top South Asian networks that opened at that time, called ZTV. And that allowed me to build I ended up doing news, but also covering Hollywood celebrities and Bollywood celebrities that would come to the US. I think the one thing people have to remember is if you want to work in this field, no one's just going to hand you anything on a platter. You really have to put yourself out there, and you have to do the work, and you have to respect the people that you work with, or just be able to network with people that you meet along the way. And even now, I would have to say to you that I'm one of the only South Asian journalists that covers entertainment in Hollywood. I mean, whether I'm at a press junket or a carpet, I've been fortunate to host the Golden Globes live. I know there's a lot of controversy around that right now, I've done the Emmys, the Academy Awards, HBO. I've worked a lot with them as well, and other studios and networks, but it's been fun. And I have to say, I really, really enjoy the storytelling part and meeting new people. I recently launched my own talk show for TV Asia, which has about a 7.8 million viewership, called Raw with Rasha, where I decided I wanted to really tackle taboo topics or stigmas that people don't want to talk about, especially in the South Asian community. And that's really just a start. I mean, I have a bigger vision and plan for it, but I wanted to start in a community that doesn't like to have those conversations, and especially give a voice to women in that community. I really feel that through conversation, we can help one another heal.
Stories we can all relate to.
Life doesn't stop for your mental illness. You know, you have to find a way to adapt.
Did you ever feel suicidal at any point? Conversations that are uncomfortable.
Our daughter told us in the last year that she is transgender.
I didn't want to live with him.
A lot of my days were very blurry.
I would tell everybody there's light at the end of the tunnel.
All this and more on Raw with Rasha.
I also do Star Talk, which is mostly celebrity interviews. So really covering, you know, the latest film and television.
It's taken 25 years, but Hollywood is finally releasing a film featuring an all-Asian cast.
I'd like to share a quote by Maya Angelou that I use both personally and professionally in my life. And she says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And you know, that is such an important line that stays with me, because I feel like we all have the power of impacting people. So every day, whether it's in your personal life or professional life, think about your intention and what you're doing to make a difference. How are you being of service? I mean, even through my work, I always go into an interview thinking of, how can I make a difference in this person's life? It's not about the quote I'm gonna get, but how am I gonna leave making them feel? And I like to bring that to every job I do, and I like to bring that to every relationship that I have in my life. I'm Rasha Goel, and this is my voice.
Let's meet Sasha Fu, who is a true pioneer and inspiration for all women in television media journalism. Although her humble roots began in radio, Sasha eventually became the first Asian female anchor at the CNN network. Now retired from a successful career and living in San Diego, Sasha now focuses her passion for storytelling and even acting with her new life's pursuits that she shares with us.
I love journalism. I love the idea of being able to listen carefully to people and try to translate what they're telling me into something that is moving or profound, or something that communicates to another person about what this other person's experience is like. My parents came here separately from China to the United States. They met each other, got married, and had 2 daughters. I'm the eldest, and I have a sister. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I was always a really strong writer, and my high school journalism teacher said, well, maybe you want to think about going into television. And I thought, really? That's odd. But I had this idea, well, maybe I'll try my hand at journalism. So my first job actually was at KYW News Radio in Philadelphia, and I was admitted to a rather elite program called the Westinghouse Management Training Program. I basically shadowed a radio reporter for about 8-9 months, and then I got my first job as a radio news writer. At that time, Cable News Network had just started, and they were starting a second network, which was going to be called Headline News. So on a whim, I sent a tape, and I got hired.
Good evening, I'm Sasha Fu. This is Newsnight Saturday.
From the beginning, in 1981, I was on Headline News as an anchor. And then a couple years later, I jumped over to CNN, regular CNN. It was interesting because it was this fledgling network. Nobody really understood at the time how important that network would be. It was very exciting. I was at CNN for about 5 years, and after I left CNN, I did not get another broadcasting job for a while. So I reinvented myself as an advertising copywriter. So I worked in advertising for about 5 years, and I didn't know if I was going to go back to broadcasting, but I did get a call out of the blue. It was about a week after I got laid off from my advertising job, and it was for a job in Seattle as a weekend anchor.
The city of Seattle hopes to make some $10 million from parking tickets alone this year.
I was only in Seattle on the air for a year. I finally got another job in Boston, lost that job, went to New York as a freelancer, was there for about a year, then got a job in LA as the weekend anchor, was there for about 4.5 years, ended up in San Francisco, and then went to San Diego.
Those children and their parents are due to arrive in Murrieta for temporary housing after being flown from Texas to San Diego.
Joined the station here in 2003, and I had a 17-year tenure at the station in San Diego.
For the last time, Sasha Fu, KUSI News.
I found myself feeling very uncomfortable with this shift that I've observed, in that facts are being taken over by opinion and by ideology. And facts are being twisted by some people in the media to represent a particular point of view, a particular opinion. Some might even call it propagandistic. I'm very uncomfortable about that. I think I'm old school. I think journalists should present facts and let the viewer or the reader interpret what those facts mean. I don't want to impose my perspective on that. I think a good journalist fundamentally has to be curious and open-minded. If you don't have those traits, your reporting is shallow. And that is the problem now that we face, because we're all in our little silos, oh, I don't want to talk to these people because that doesn't reflect my point of view, or we don't want to talk to these people because I feel differently. Well, why can't we acknowledge that, yes, I don't feel the same about this, but I still need to listen to you because I need to understand where you're coming from and why you feel that way. It's increasingly difficult, I think, to listen to other people with an open mind. And that's what I would tell the young journalist. Try to be open-minded. Try to seek out opinions that are different than your own, if only to educate yourself, to find out why they have that experience. I mean, everybody's experience colors the way they see things, right? And, I'm guilty of it myself at times. So I gotta say, we all kind of have to watch that. And as a journalist, somebody who's, you're also chronicling history. So you're also a historian, you're an observer. And you're recording things. This is for your children and their children. It's important to get it right. 2020 was a period when a lot of people began to think about what they were doing, because they were forced to. I mean, things were not normal. And although I was still working in the field and still enjoying it for the most part, I began to think, well, is there something else I want to do? And is it time to do that? And so the pandemic, I'm blessed, also gave me an opportunity to reflect on what was going on in my life personally. And I decided, this is a good time at least to leave broadcasting, maybe just temporarily, and look at some of the other interests I've had. Writing, acting, performing, and so I'm doing that. I'm starting on this other road and seeing where it will take me. I'm Sasha Fu, and this is my voice.
Our next story is about a woman whose dream of becoming a journalist started when she was 5 years old. With over a decade of experience under her belt in print, radio, and broadcast journalism, as a producer, morning anchor, and reporter, not to mention an online VJ and host, you may have seen her frequently on screen, bringing you stories on Spectrum One News. When she's not reporting, you can often find her surfing in the Pacific Ocean or showing off her martial arts skills. Let's meet Jo Kwon and find out what's behind her true passion for informing and entertaining.
I would say that I am kind of easygoing. The area that I grew up in, it was a little beach town, surf town, not a ton of Korean Americans in the area. My parents, they always spoke to us in English. And then if we were in trouble, they would speak to us in Korean. But we didn't understand a lot of it, at least when I was younger. My parents wanted us to find our own passions, and whether that was in those traditional types of careers, they weren't ever pushy about that. And I remember we were watching Connie Chung. My parents said, "Hey, we could see you doing that." And, the woman on the television kind of looked like me. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Connie Chung was just kind of the, hey, that person looks like me. I can do that too, maybe. And let me try it out, inspiration. Whereas my parents and my family, my brother, my mom, were really the people that sort of guided me along all these years to where I am now. I've always known I wanted to be in news, whatever that format was, or storytelling.
Where there's ocean, sand, and of course surfing, that's where we find our who?
Jo Kwon in the house.
Our daring dame. You can't keep that girl out. I told you.
She's in the water. Look at her.
She is.
She popped up.
What I love most about what I do is that no day is the same. And you learn something new every single day. And as I've gotten further in my career, another favorite thing about what I do is talking to people who really are passionate about what they do.
She makes it look easy. Then again, this smiley 16-year-old has been surfing her whole life.
I would say to anybody, if you want to get into broadcast journalism, you just have to go do it. It doesn't matter if it's ever going to air on a radio station, a television station, be posted on a website. You have to go do it. Go start telling people stories. Have other people watch it. And when you're interning somewhere in college, it doesn't matter how busy the programming director is, the news director. Ask them to watch it. They'll make the time, and you got to that's part of networking, and that's how you start making the connections in your career, and that's where your mentorship begins, with the people who have been doing this for so long. So no matter where you are, go start recording, whether it's radio or TV, and put those stories together. That's what I would say. Surfing is just, everybody has their own thing where they check out or they just get in their zone and they can kind of tune out everything else. That's what surfing is for me. While it's a great workout, you can check all those boxes, it's really about, it helps relax you. And once you do catch a wave, you kind of get obsessed with it. There's just nothing like it, but you just kind of just get to be with nature and just feel whatever it is. Even if you don't catch as many waves as you want, which happens a lot to me, it's still a great time. And I've not found anything else that matches that sort of serenity and peace, yet you also get a workout. I'm Jo Kwon. This is my voice.
This program was made possible in part by the California Arts Council, advancing California through the arts and creativity. Team Metro Real Estate, helping families with real estate investments in San Diego since 1990. Contact us today for your free in-home market valuation. Promote your organization or event online today on Asian Pacific Community Connection Business Directory website. Asian Voices was brought to you by Asian Culture and Media Alliance, empowering our Asian and Pacific Islander communities through media arts since 2013.
Please support the only television program
that creates a voice of real change.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
Asian Voices.
This is our voice.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. But be sure to check out other Asian Voices stories on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Before we go, I'll leave you with today's music video by a talented music artist. I'm Kathleen Choi, and I'll see you next time on Asian Voices. Until then, take care everyone.